Today I'm going to be talking about customer delight. Customer delight. I love this subject, but actually I love talking about customers. That's what I do a lot, how customers are really core to your business. So it's really about understanding who your customers are, what are their preferences, and really growing an organisation around that. So having a customer-centric organisation. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Janice B. Gordon. I'm here to talk to you about customers. I've been talking a lot in this series about customer-centric businesses, and I've worked with large and small companies, really helping them to develop their business strategies around their customers. And this is really a customer-centric businesses. One company I helped to grow their business by over 6 million in less than a year. So that's kind of quite good going, very good going. And a lot of the strategies I talked to them about and help them implement are what I talk to you about as well. So I really try and make these business strategies really easy for you, because if you do not understand it, you're not going to use it. And it's absolutely critical these days. Let me focus it again. It's absolutely critical today that you really keep pace with customers, your customers. You're really kind of standing very close to who your customers are, what their preferences are, what their likes and dislikes. And so, I'm here to talk about those strategies, and I'm specifically talking about delighting your customer. So make sure you comment below, even when it's recorded. After this training, I go in and I answer your questions. So it's really great to get your feedback. So thank you for joining me. I'm a little bit distracted by the focusing in and out. It's a bit like those kind of whirlwind things that go round and round and round you, and it's quite hypnotic. So I'll try not to kind of focus in too much on that like this. So customer delight. Now I'm going to give you 11 steps to delighting your customer, and it's really important that you follow these steps, and you make sure every time I mention a step, what I want you to do is think about whether your company is large or small. I really want you to think about what that means to you, how you can implement it. Do you actually do that? So when I go through the steps, I really want you to embed that into your business and really think about, make a note of how you can implement these things. When you have the next meeting with your mentor or with your executives, to think about how you can improve some of those aspects as we go through the steps. So it's really important that you're prepared for that. Because some of these steps but you don't always do. So that's why it's important to take a little bit of time out to focus on delighting your customer. If you delight your customer, you grow your bottom line, you're more profitable. It's that simple. And if you don't get it, follow some of the trainings that I've done previously when I've talked about the people in your business. All of these things actually drive you to be a more profitable business. So I talked about the people in the business, the processes and the products. All of these things come together into what is a customer-centric business, and how you can be a customer-centric business, having the customer at the core of your business, how you can do that. And all of these strategies really help you to do that. So customer-centricity is based upon the idea that your business model really has your customer at its core and throughout all of the functions of your business. And all of the strategies that I talked about previously help you to do that. Customers are loyal, not to companies, not to brands, not to products, not to services. They are loyal to the experience that they receive. And so that's why it's really important to understand what experience they want. And that's why it's really important to understand your customer, because only when you understand their expectations, the experience they want, can you actually provide it. And the great thing about delighting your customer is when you provide that customer experience they expect, you can then beat it. You can delight them by consistently giving them more than what they expect. But if you don't know what they expect, you cannot do that. And you're often underperforming on their expectations, in which case they're not going to be loyal and they're not going to talk about your business and your profits will go down. So that's the link. Your customers have got to be absolutely core to your business. You know, products and services alone will not create the relationship, the kind of relationship that you need with your customer. It's got to be more than that. And what it is, it's their expectations, their preferences, and how you build those relationships that enable the customer to really experience the kind of experiences that they want. The products and the services is a byproduct of the experience. And so that's why the products and services are more about your business, your company, your brand. But actually the experience is more about the customer, their preferences, your relationship. And that's why those things are absolutely core to a customer-centric business. It really almost turns the business from outside, which I have talked about, to in. You're actually looking on all the things, all of your external drivers to make sure that you're a lot closer to the key things that can impact your business, impact your bottom line, and it's all linked to your customer. So you must continue to deliver something of value to your customer, and you only know what that is by actually asking your customer, which I have talked about ways that you can actually, you know, get feedback from your customer. There's a whole session on that. So the only way of knowing that it's of value to the customer is really understanding their preferences, their wants and their needs, and the difference between those two things. You know, so it's really, really important that you understand the expectations that your customers have, that you're really clear about their preferences, and it's really about having the customer at the core of your business, really having the customer's perceptions and expectations of your business, having their perspective. Customers expect so much more nowadays, and the reason for that is that technology has enabled them. You know, they have very high expectation, and they have an expectation of speed as well. And it's not necessarily your expectation of speed. You know, like years ago they used to say about answering phones in 3 calls. Customers don't always expect that, but companies often design these benchmarks that are irrelevant to the customer and not really important. They actually probably don't mind if it's answered in 6 calls. They probably don't even want to call you. They may want chat boxes, or you know, they may want web chats, they may want, you know, email, they may want a real person. You don't know what they want until you actually survey and ask the customer. So you may have a benchmark that's irrelevant to actually the customer and doesn't have any impact on that customer's experience. And then if it doesn't, it's irrelevant, and you've invested in something that actually doesn't really hit your bottom line, doesn't delight or satisfy the customer. This is why you're very much led by your customer. I've talked a lot about this in previous sessions, so make sure you do go back and listen to my other live trainings to really get a 360 view on what customer experience is and how it can interact with different functions and different areas of your business, because I've really tried to break it down into all of the different aspects, the people, the products, the processes in your business, and this is really key. So, you know, what is delighting your customer? What's that all about? Customer delight is actually exceeding their expectation. So you create customer loyalty first, and that's really about understanding what their preferences are, what they're meeting their preferences and their expectations. Then you create loyalty. But if you want to delight your customer, it's about giving them those surprises, the things they least expect. It's about going above and beyond. It's going beyond their expectations. And doing that consistently creates customer delight. So the first level is customer loyalty. The next level is customer delight. And this is where you really create advocates of your business. The people that sell your business for you, that sell your products, that sell your brand for you. And that's really what you want. You really want a fan base. You want people that campaign on your behalf. The only way you do that is being a customer-centric business and actually using those strategies so that you have the kind of experience that the customers want, because you know what they want, and you delight the customers by meeting those, you create loyalty by meeting the expectation, and then you delight by exceeding the expectations. That's really the process. So you've got to go above and beyond, and you can only do that if you really understand what they expect from you. Only then can you go above and beyond. And it's really about managing your customers' relationships. And you can only do that by establishing them, maintaining them, and enhancing those relationships. And that's why I say you really need to be very close to your customers. You need to be having a two-way conversation with them all the time. You need to have a feedback loop to actually surveying the customers all the time. So it's really important in delighting your customers, you understand the different levels, creating the kind of experience that they want. Doing that consistently creates loyalty. Going beyond that creates delight for your customer. So, you know, when was the time you last actually did your own customer's journey with your business? So it's like a mystery shopper, really kind of going through that, almost like blindfolded. So forgetting you know the process, or you think you know the process, but really experience the journey that your customer goes on to finding your business and to interacting with your business, and then the kind of post purchase experience they have of your business. When was the last time you actually went on the very same journeys that your customers went on? You know, when you do, it might be pretty shocking and surprising, the experience that you have. You think you create a journey or experience, and you think that you're delivering certain things, but when you actually experience it for yourself, there's a lot of key learnings that can come out. And that's what I do for business. I will go through the customer journey and give them all of the insights, because the thing is, I have no expectation of what it's going to be. And also, I have no idea of what the process is as well. So I'm really going at it, going through the journey completely unbiased. But it's important that you do experience the journeys that your customers go on, because you can get real insights from doing that. Some of them are quite shocking as well, but the idea is to learn from it and improve it and get the real enlightenment out of having that experience and having the perspective of your customer. So it makes it real what you're doing and why you're doing it. So it's important to do that. So I'd really kind of like urge you to create an opportunity to experience what your customers experience. You know, your workforce is absolutely key. The people within your organization, that's from your supply chain, your suppliers, you know, all of your contractors and your employees, you know, all of the people that create your products, your service, your brand, that make up, whether internal or external to your business, are really important to the success of your customer experience. So it's important that you bring them on board and get them to experience the customer journey as well, because again, they're going to have a very different perspective to you, and again, they'll bring in different insights into the business. So I know there's a lot of moving parts. You've got the kind of internal customer, the external customer. You're wanting to create, you know, a journey that meets your customer's expectation to create those loyal customers, and then you need to exceed that expectation in order to delight the customer. So there's a lot of things and moving parts, but if you go back and look at the other live training, you'll understand the process, the method of creating the process, processes that you need in place and the steps you need to go through. You know, in developing the product, what's the process for that and the steps you need to go through. And the people, what's the process of creating the right people environment in order to delight your customer, in order to create a customer-centric company, so that your customer is at the core of your business. So customer-centric cultures really focus on delighting the customers. It focuses on the experience the customer has of purchasing the product or the service, or going through the process journey. And so here are the 11 steps. I know there's a lot. 11 steps that you need in order to delight your customer. So the first is really starting with an overriding top-down focus on your customer experience. Really important to do this. It's got to be led from the top. And so you've got to have those real sponsors and champions in the business in order to make sure that this is a business model, the customer-centric business model, absolutely core to the leadership of the business, and then it kind of filters down. You've got to make sure that the right messages are delivered all the way through the organisation, not only from the top down, but not only in words, but also in the actions that not only come from the top down, but throughout the organisation. And so it's really, really important that that's the first thing. The second thing is making sure that the team understands why this is absolutely critical to your business, why having customers at the core to your business is critical to your bottom line. So you've got to have that as a starting point, that level of understanding, and get everyone's buy-in on that. Then the how will naturally happen. If everyone in the company is really clear about why this is critical to business, what that enables the teams to do is to design the process that will work with all the other processes within the organisation, because they clearly understand their functional area, and if they've got their why really clear, the how actually naturally evolves, because they've really got motivation to make sure that it works with the customer's interest in mind. So the how will follow through as part of the team evolving their processes, because they're really clear on why they're doing it. And so what will happen is the processes will intersect with one another in order to achieve the key goal, which is the why. So the third area is to be responsive. Customers are relentless, as I say. They really have a completely different expectation of speed, of responsiveness, and it's important that you're clear about what that is, and not actually set up goals and targets that are irrelevant to the customer. But responsiveness based on what the customer expects is really important in business. If you're not responsive to the customer's needs, and that may be 1 hour or 5 hours or 3 days, whatever that may be, if you're not responsive, you lose your customers and they'll go to your competitors. Now, 2 weeks ago, I talked about the 4 steps to customer-centric successfully co-creating their products. So this is the other area about creating the right products for your customers rather than the right products for the business because of their internal operations. It's important that the products are relevant to the customers that are going to buy them. And so co-creation is a strategy that I talked about 2 weeks ago. So make sure you go back and look at that. And it's really about putting your customers and using their insights. I give you a story of when I worked for an innovation company, and I realised, and it really was a revelation, that customers are the best creators and innovators. And I've always, for the last 15 years, had that at my core. And because I know they're the best creators and innovators, I always make sure that, you know, I turn companies on to that. In order to do that, you've got to have the systems and processes to allow your customers to co-create with you. So go back 2 weeks ago and listen to the live training about the co-creating products. And then the fifth area is really having customers at the core of every business decision. It's really important that the customers are sitting at the table, because it enables you to really listen to the customers if they're at the core to the business, if they're at the core to every decision, so that you cannot make a decision unless you know that you have conversed with the customers first. And you might think that's absolutely crazy, but it actually keeps the decisions you make being realistic and being relevant and being useful. So if all your decision making has to be checked with your customer, and there's loads of ways of actually doing that, it means that you automatically remain relevant and realistic and useful. So it's almost like this is the benchmark before a decision can actually pass, that you've got run it through your customers, and there's ways of actually doing that. You know, it's about delighting your customers. I said was about going above and beyond, and there are things that you know, doing things that your customers least expect when they least expect it. And it doesn't have to be really expensive. It really doesn't. But it's about thinking about what they are. In my book, Business Evolution, Creating Growth in a Rapidly Changing World, I talk a lot about this, and I talk about wow, which is what delight is. Really wowing your customers and how you can do that. And I give you lots of examples of how you can actually do that. So make sure you get my book. Number 7 is about humanising the customer experience. Having a human being somewhere within their journey when it's important to the customer to have that human contact. It's really about humanising the relationship. Now, I understand customers don't mind automation. You know, in fact, some the millennials actually prefer that. So it's okay to have automation as part of your process, as part of the journey the customer goes through. Great. But when the customer needs a personal contact, when they need that point that, you know, sometimes you just think when you're on endless calls and, you know, you just want human contact. You just want a human being to sort it out. You've got to be responsive in your business, in your processes, as to when that might be, and make sure you have that as an option for your customers to choose when they want human contact. It's really important that you do that, because it makes the customer feel important. It makes the customer feel that you're not a robot and you're not treating them robotically. So it's important that you have that in your systems. You've got to humanise the experience and the processes. You know, it's important to be transparent with your policies, but flexible with the implementation. Now, the reason for that is that we're all different, aren't we? Yes, we are. You know, every situation is different. Every customer, every supplier, every, you know, buyer, every buying unit is different. So although you have policies in order to give the guidelines, it's important you have flexibility in the implementation of those policies. Really important. So you set out transparently what the policies are, knowing full well that you're going to give your frontline staff, or the people that have contact with real people, your customers, you're going to give them the flexibility to apply it in the implementation. Very important that you do that. And a lot of companies don't understand that. They have rigid policies and they don't enable their, customer facing people enough flexibility with those policies. And the reason why you can do that is because of the first point step that I made, is because it's an overriding, the first and the second, overriding top down customer focus. Everyone actually understands it's a customer centric organization and all of the process. And the second thing, remember, was the why. If everyone understands why you're doing it, why it's critical, then the how will actually work itself out. And allowing your frontline staff to do the how in the implementation is allowing that flexibility. So, the ninth thing, I think it's the ninth thing got a list here. Yeah, keeping your customers in the loop. And this is really remaining relevant. This is enabling you to remain relevant to your customer, keeping your customers in the loop. This often happens that companies start to lose their customers by solving problems, but actually not feeding back to customers how they solve the problems. Also, customer complaints. I love, we're talking about customer complaints. I've got loads of blogs and different things on that. But it's really important in your processes that you understand really what customers need. They don't want you just to take the problem away and solve it. They actually want to know how you're going to solve it, and they want to know that you have solved it. So it's important that you keep the two-way conversation going all the time. So once you become alert to a problem, that you tell a customer how the problem is going to be resolved. You're quite transparent about, we know problems exist, we know they come up, but you're quite open about the process you're going to take. But you don't end there. What you do is you follow up with the customer and tell them where you are in the process, and you keep giving them updates until it's resolved, not by the end of your process, but resolved to the customer's satisfaction. That's the important thing, really. It's keeping them in the loop, keeping the two-way communication going at all times. So that's really important, that you get feedback from them and checking in with them. So they feel that, this is really important to you as it is to them, and they feel that they're part of that process. So it's important to keep them in the loop, keep them a part of the process. So it's investing in the right things. This is number 10, investing in the right things. And this is really tying your customer experience to the compensation. I've talked about this before, and I see it so much in sales. And this is when salespeople they are remunerated on the sale. That's understandable, but they're not remunerated on building the relationship. So what do? They don't really build relationships. It's sell, sell, sell. And so this is why it's important that your business processes, what your goals are, and if your goals is customer satisfaction, your goals is building long-term relationships, that actually your people are rewarded for that. So it's really about investing in the right things. But it's also giving your frontline staff, as I say, the responsibility and the authority, because they really understand the why. Customers are absolutely critical. They understand why, allowing them with the how. So investing in the right things, allowing them the freedom to apply the how, to use their own common sense, to judge it right. So it's investing in the right things. So then the 11th thing is really making it real. Making it real for everybody. And this is about telling real stories, sharing real insights, because they're very much more powerful than the marketing messages. So whether you're sharing them internally or externally with your potential or existing customers, it's again about the two-way conversation. If you've got a customer that's done really well, or that's done something amazing, or that has sent a testimonial, you've got to be sharing those things, you know, sharing them internally, you know, making sure the customer knows that you've shared it, sharing it with potential customers as well. It makes it all real. What you do has an impact, which is what I said at the beginning. Really understanding the customer's perspective, going through the journey yourself, understanding that it's real. You can make a real impact to that one customer, to that one buyer, you know, and if you think about it, because it's a personal two-way conversation, you know, you think about the one person, and then you've done one, you've done 100, you've done 1,000, you know, really making it real, really understanding that every time you have an interaction, you can make an impact, and sharing that impact with your internal and external world. So it's really important to do that, make it real to everybody. And what that does is that reinforces the why. It reinforces what you're about. It reinforces why it's really important. It not only internally but externally as well. So it's really important to actually do this. So I always post a blog based on my live sessions on Mondays. So, you know, if you haven't kind of like made a note of all of this, make sure you go into theproblem-solver.com. On the afternoon on a Monday around about 5 o'clock is normally when I post my blog. So you'll have all 11 steps there so that you can revisit them again. I also will post this on my YouTube channel as well. So all is not lost. You can actually go back and review all of those 11 steps. But, you know, it's really important to understand that, you know, if you lose your customer, if you don't apply these steps to create loyalty and delight your customer, if you don't do it, then your customers will leave you. And if they leave you, they very rarely come back. It's really difficult to win a customer back. So the best thing is not to lose them. The best thing is to create loyalty in your processes, in the experiences that you develop for your customers, by meeting your customers' expectation. And then once you really understand what their expectations are and you've created the loyalty, beat it. Challenge yourself, challenge your whole organisation to beat it. Enable your frontline customers, which is your workforce, to beat it. Allow your salespeople to beat it as well, by rewarding them on building the long-term relationships, rewarding them on the right things. So it's really important that you understand that these steps that I've given you enable you to create loyal customers, and by beating it, delighting your customers consistently. And what then happens? Your profitability goes up. I talk about this all the time, the link between customer centricity, having customers at the core to your business, and the profitability of your customers. You know, like, you cannot do all of these things all at once, but you've really got to have the top-down approach that this is an aspiration that you have. And then I've given you so many strategies, whether it's from the people, from the processes, from the products, that you know, all of the different functions and aspects, a 360 view of your business, all of the strategies that you can use. And it's about you just slowly tweak it, because there's a lot of moving parts. I understand that. But what you need to do is have that as your aspiration, have it as your business model, and make it real. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I absolutely love to get your feedback. So make sure that you share the love, share this with your tribe, comment, and make sure that you read the blogs and you get all of the 11 steps to creating customer delight. It's been a pleasure speaking to you today.